Welcome, everyone. This is our advanced QuickSight workshop. We're just getting started today with the first few workshops in a fall learning series. What we're trying to do here in these sessions is give you a chance to learn some of the most relevant and new content about QuickSight, and we will be diving deep on machine learning and advanced calculations here today. My name is Jill Florent. I'm on the customer success team for Amazon QuickSight, and I'm joined by Ian Liao, who is a data visualization architect on our professional services team. So without further ado, let's just go through a couple of quick items. As I mentioned, we're here today to dive beyond kind of the initial introductory topics of QuickSight. We're going to be looking closely at the author experience and building upon some of the introductory concepts to dive deeper on calculations and machine learning insights such as narratives and forecasting and anomaly detection. So we're hoping that all of you have access to an enterprise edition QuickSight account with author privileges, and just flagging that if you do not have enterprise edition, you're not going to be able to do some of the ML insights. So hopefully you're at the right place, and we're very happy that you joined us. We are going to be recording the session today and making sure to answer as many of your questions as possible. So if you'll notice on the right side of your screen, there are a series of gray bars that show you different parts of GoToWebinar. There's a questions area that you can post questions, and we've got some moderators here from our team that are going to be trying to answer as many questions as possible. But we will not send you the questions and answers in a transcript or anything. So just make sure to take notes of anything that comes up that you wanted to keep. But I would flag that the QuickSight community is another good place to get questions asked and answered. And the community is something that we're intending to enhance later this quarter. So looking forward to some updates there. So maybe make a bookmark of that link that you see there. What we'll be doing is recording the session and putting it onto our QuickSight YouTube channel, which is a great place to get not only kind of short snippets of things that you can do in QuickSight, but also to access some of the deep dive content that we're looking at here in sessions like this. And just flagging, we have another workshop tomorrow focused on embedding, and another one next week focused on more advanced topics on anonymous embedding and RLS, and more to come later this fall. So make sure to keep looking at QuickSight, and we'll flash in the what's new area what workshops are coming up. So with that, we will love to get your feedback at the end, but I'm going to go ahead now and invite Ian to begin sharing your screen and introducing the content for today. Give me just 1 second. And Ian, you should now have the presenter privileges, so you can begin sharing your screen.
All right, thank you, Jill. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, cool. Okay, so my name is Ian, Ian Liao. I'm a data visualization architect from AWS ProServe. So my job is to leverage QuickSight to build applications for AWS customers. So today we are going through the author workshop. So I will majorly cover the advanced calculations and the machine learning modules in this workshop. So for those who have been in the first 2 sessions of workshop, I want to thank you for hanging there. I know it's been a long day of learning for you guys. And if someone who is actually skipped the first 2 sessions and directly jump in here for the advanced calculations and machine learning, the first thing I want to walk you through is setting up the data set, and then you can build your analysis on top of the data set. And one more thing before we get started is, so as I will go through the workshop, we will go through like over tons of exercises. What I will do is I will first demo the exercise on my screen, and then I will leave like a couple minutes for you to follow. And during the process, if you have any question, feel free to send it to the chat. So we have our moderators, and myself will also take a look at that. So we make sure that all the questions are answered, and that you will be able to follow the exercises. All right, so to get started, I will first come back a little bit to the build your first dashboard session, and I will go to the page where we can download the data set. Actually, let me copy and paste this link to the chat. Yeah, so if you don't have the data set yet, you can go ahead and click on download this SAS sales.csv file. Click on it, and you get a new file download here. And then now you can go back to your QuickSight and click on datasets, and then click on new dataset. And then you can choose upload a file, and select the CSV file we just downloaded. So in my case, it's this one. Or if you download first time, there's no the suffix of 1 there. And then the file is being uploaded, and you can click on edit settings and preview data, where you can have a glance of the data that's in this CSV file. And then you can choose save and publish. And with that, you can come back to QuickSight, and you can see you have a new data set here being published. And you can start creating your analysis. So you can, from the data set, click on the data set, and you can click on create analysis. Then you'll be able to see the QuickSight editor console, and you'll be able to create analysis from there. Any questions so far? All right, it seems we're all good. So now let me come back to the analysis that I actually created beforehand. So in this analysis, I had a few visualizations created. These are the ones that you should have created in the previous sessions of today's training. So if you are new here, again, so this is actually pretty simple. So the first one is a line chart, and you can put the order date on it with aggregation to month level, and then add the sales, total sales to it. It will give you a monthly sales trend from this data set. And then on top of that, you can click the data set and go to Insights. And then you will see options to add forecast and period over period. So this is a month over month. You can click here, and you can also click on the forecast, which is the forecast insight. We will go through a bit later on in details. But if you click on plus here, you'll get the insights as I have right now. I can show you that. Run, and then click the visual, click on the insights, and then click on the plus button in the forecast. Then you'll get another one. Then you can probably arrange it. You can move it to the right and make it slightly smaller. Yeah, I think that's all we need for today's session. Okay, so with that, if there's no question, then I will kind of jump back to our content today. So let me post the link of the workshop here as well. So the first module we'll talk about is calculations in QuickSight. So calculation is a like a really powerful tool in QuickSight that allows you to build a variety of analytics in QuickSight. So we do support different type of functions, like we have support arithmetic or simple function, aggregation functions, and also table functions. Different functions may have different characteristics, right? So like for simple functions like addition, it just takes in like one rows of input, maybe two inputs in a row, and output the addition, the sum of those two numbers. Like then the aggregation function, we could have like count or max or also sum, where it takes like a column of input, right? And then aggregate that into one row. Then for table function, it could be like rounding sum or rank, where it takes in a column of input and it outputs same number of rows like in another column as output. And also in QuickSight, there are different places where we can define calculations. So we can define calculations in analysis layer or in the dataset layer. And the QuickSight is smart enough to decide when to compute these calculations. So for example, for dataset layer, then if we have a simple calculation, this is actually calculated when the dataset is loaded. And if this calculation that's in dataset layer, but it's an aggregation function, since the aggregation is only evaluated at the time when we actually have the aggregation. So this calculation is actually evaluated when the particular visual that leverages this function or leverages this calculation is loaded, then it's evaluated. So yeah, to summarize that, like QuickSight is kind of smart. It can be able to tell what is the best option for you and a good balance of performance and flexibility of calculation. And another concept that's very important is evaluation order. So let me zoom in on this picture so that you can see. So in QuickSight, we have 3 stages of like evaluation. So like the first stage is we call it prefilter stage or prefilter level. So in this stage, we will calculate two kind of evaluation. So first one is we call it simple calculation. So it's basically the ones that we use like a simple functions like like plus, like minus, like string concatenates, etc. And another type in this level or stage is we call it prefilter level-aware aggregation. It's a special type of table function that we purposely calculated that in the first stage for some special use cases. So I will not go into details for now, but we will come back later when we talk about the level-aware aggregation. Then the second stage we call the pre-ag aggregation level. So this is a stage where we have applied some of the filtering, like analysis filtering, and also top and bottom filters. And in between, we also have a calculation type called pre-aggregation. Again, this is a special type of a level-aware aggregation. We'll talk about that later. And after the pre-filter and the pre-ag level, we have our display level calculation or display level stage. So in this stage, what we will first calculate is our aggregations. Like when you have the sum or max or count, we will basically aggregate data from the data in your data set to a level that's been shown in your visualization. And we also apply a filter after this aggregation. So it's like a having clause in SQL, or like I want to make example like if you aggregate data, say sales data per country, right? So if you want to filter the sales per country, then this is the place you want to apply the filter. And then we'll do our regular table function calculation and total and the subtotal calculation in the last two steps in our display stage. Yeah, with that, I mean, this is a kind of high overview of the evaluation order. We'll actually frequently call back to it as we go through the exercise. Okay, if no questions right now, let me move on to the first exercise in this module. So for the first step, you can create a new analysis or use your existing analysis. You can actually, if you are using your existing analysis, you can also try to create a new sheet in your analysis. So you can click the plus button here, and then you can name your sheet to be like advanced calculations. So let me just do it here. Rename it to be advanced calculations. And then we'll go from there. So the first exercise is just creating the analysis. So I'm assuming that's simple enough for you to follow. So let's just move on to the next exercise. So in this exercise, we want to calculate a cost. In our data set, we have columns that's sales, and we also have columns called profit, right? So the cost will be as simple as we just minus profit from sales. So let's start with one simple function in our calculation. So to do that, in QuickSight, we can click the plus button or add button on top left, and click add calculate field. We can name it we can name this calculation as row cost. And its formula is basically sales minus profit. And you can click save. And this is an example of using a simple function or arithmetic function. So let's create another one, not using aggregation function. So let's create another calculated field with a calculation name is aggregate cost. And formula, I will just copy and paste here, which is sum of sales minus sum of profit. Let me save it. And then let's just put create a table and put the calculations on the table to compare it. So let's put the aggregate cost. You can just simply click on it, and the row cost. And we can add a dimension to it. So let's just add like a segment, and change that to a table. Change the visual type to a table. And we can also enable totals by clicking on 3 dots of the visual and click on show totals. And with that, you can see these 2 calculations returns identical result, right? Why is that? Because we are just using minus in our row level calculation, or we use minus after aggregation. So minus is type of addictive function, right? Taking a minus is like adding a negative number. So there is one important law that is called addictive commutative law. That means you can always switch orders when you do plus or minus in your calculation. So in our case, the row level calculation, the row cost, what we did was we first take the 2 columns, the sales and the profit per rows, and then we did a minus calculation for each row. And then we did a sum over the output. That's how it's calculated. And on the left-hand side, we have with our aggregate cost, what we did was we first aggregate the sales column as well as the cost column, sorry, profit column, and then we calculate the difference between those 2 output, right? Between those 2 numbers. So because the addition calculation is commutative, so both calculation will, no matter what the order it is, will return the same number. All right, so I think we do have some questions here. Let me look into that. So the first question, this calculated fields are not being added to data model or a specific visualization, but rather this analysis as a whole. The answer is yes. So in this use case, we're adding these calculations to analysis. And in QuickSight, the calculation is actually like I said, the calculation can be added to dataset or can be added to analysis. So, but in our current use case, we're adding everything to the analysis right now, just for the demo purpose. And I also want to mention that is, so the calculation is actually attached, even it's added to analysis, the calculation is actually attached to a particular data set. So let me show you that if I include another data set in this analysis, like this one, we do have the row level security one. If I look at the row level security data set, we don't have that calculations. So the calculations only exist in the sales data set, the row count and the aggregate count. The second question, so if it has a cost, if the cost column already exists, what will happen is you cannot create fields in calculated fields in QuickSight with the same name. So like right now, I already have I already have a row cost, right? So if I want to add another calculation and I call it row cost again, and you will not be able to save it. So you ask you to add a unique field name within a data set. All right, so with that, I will move on to the next exercise. So we have, which is exercise 3, actually exercise 4 already. So now in exercise 3 and 4, we will look at a different use case. So far we have seen cost, right, which the calculation is addictive. Then what if we have a different function, right? So in this case, let's try to use division. So we will do, again, we will create the calculation first, the calculated field first. So let The first one will create the row profit margin. So the purpose of this exercise is to try to find the profit margin of the sales. So the calculation is simple. We just do profit divided by sales, right? But if we just use these two numbers, these two columns with a division, we will not be able to get the right answer. So let me create that first. Then I will create a right formula for you, which is the aggregated profit margin. For this one, what we'll be doing is we'll be using a sum of profit divided by sum of the sales. And let's save that as well. And then let's add the newly created fields to our visualization. So aggregate profit margin and the row profit margin. And we can elect to format to percentage for both of them. So here you can see that for the aggregate profit margin, we are getting some number that's meaningful, right? 10%-ish. So for this calculation, what we did was we first calculated the aggregations per profit and per sales, right? So that we have the segment level of profit and segment level of sales. And then we calculate the division between these two numbers. That's how we come up with this number, this result. But on the right-hand side, we are calculating, in our calculation, we only specify the division. And it's at the base level, it's at the data set level. We haven't specified any aggregation yet. So what QuickSight will do is QuickSight will try to calculate the division between these two numbers per row, right? That's row level. And then if you expand the field well, you can see that for row cost and for row profit margin, QuickSight automatically assign an aggregation function to it, right? So when we look at the data in the visualization, data is almost always aggregated. So for numerical values, that's like the facts, or we call it measures. We always want to assign an aggregate function to it. So in this case, the default aggregation function is sum, and that's how we get this big number, which doesn't really make sense, right? Because we are calculating the profit ratio per row, like per transaction, and then we sum them up all together. This number doesn't mean anything to us. So for this one, if we want to see some data as meaningful, we can change this aggregation function. We can change it from sum to average. So let me do that. And what we will see here is some numbers that's close to the one on the left, on the aggregated profit margin. So now what's being calculated here? We are calculating the average profit margin across all the transactions we have, right? So it's still not the segment level of profit margin, but it's kind of average. So it's kind of skewed by some numbers, but it's more meaningful to us right now. But overall, I think from the exercise, what we would like you to understand is for such type of calculations, we would like to have the aggregation function defined in like this one, in the calculate field, so that QuickSight knows we want to do the aggregation first, then calculate the follow-up steps, like the division here. Yeah, so I think that covers exercise 4 and exercise 5. Then I will leave some time for you to finish this 2 exercise. And also, if there's any question, feel free to ask. So we got two questions here. So the first one is how can we combine two datasets into one overall set? So to do that, you can leverage QuickSight data blending feature. I can actually quick show that. So like in QuickSight, when you import a dataset, you can click on top right, there's a button called Add Data. So where you can actually select another dataset or data source or simply upload a file. So let me show you, upload another file. Let me do this one. Yeah, so QuickSight will ask you, how do you want to join these two files together? And you'll be able to specify your join condition and the join type, etc. So the second question is, how do we find the difference between a metric derived using lag and a row metric? Lag is actually a table function. So let me cover that later in our exercises. The last question is, how does the row level security applied to the dataset will impact the calculation built on analysis? Row level security is applied actually beforehand. So like it's calculated like before any of the calculation happens in this evaluation order that we discussed. Next question. Can we create a dimensional data table, data model with no, in QuickSight we always use denormalized model. Like in one of data set, we kind of join all the data we need together into one big table. How to add a trend line? Yeah, so trend line is very straightforward. Sorry, I should take that back. So we can add a reference line, and we can also add forecast. So we don't have a feature that actually is adding a trend line, like very like that allows you to add a trend line by one click. What you could potentially do, you can add like a rounding average, right? If you use a rounding average, you can mimic a trend line in this case. All right. Yeah. So with that, let's move on to the next exercise, where we'll talk about level-aware aggregations and actually table function. So I will say like level-aware aggregation is actually a special type of table function. So let me come back to the evaluation order first. So you can see that we can, by default, we evaluate table functions after aggregation, right? After aggregation and the filtering step. So to improve that, QuickSight has introduced features called level-aware aggregation, which allows you to add similar calculations, but you can evaluate that either in the pre-agg phase or pre-agg stage, or even pre-filter stage. Okay, so the function, the static function can only be like mostly be over functions. So you can search up on QuickSight documentation, and you can see a list of functions that supports the pre-aggregation level and the pre-filter level, which is the ones we illustrated here. Another thing I want to mention is, so with table functions, like it's always like the input number of rows is the same as output number of rows, right? So what you will see in many cases, like if you're doing like a sum over to a certain level, you'll get to see some duplicate rows. So you need to be aware of that and figure out how to take care of those duplicate rows in your calculation. So in our exercise, let me walk through that first, and you'll get an idea of what the level aggregation function is. So let me actually create another visualization on the same page. Let's add a calculate field. So the first one we want to create is called overall sales Prefilter. And the formula to calculate that is sum over. Like I said, it's over function. It will take one column as input, which is sales in our case. And the second parameter it's looking for is, we call it the aggregation level or partition level. So when you do partition by nothing, in our case, it means we are trying to calculate a sum to the total level from the data set. And the last parameter is called calculation level, which we can specify pre-filter or pre-aggregation or default. Default means post-filter, post-aggregation. So with that, let me save the first one. We created an overall sales pre-filter. And let me create another one, which is overall sales pre-aggregation. And let's create a third one. Which is overall sales post-aggregation and post-filter. So its formula is like sum over. Notice that the first parameter is slightly different from the previous two, right? The previous two, we are just calculate using the sales column, the sales field. But here we have to add a sum, which is an aggregation function, and wrapping that around the sales. The reason is when we do the, of course, when we do the post-aggregation calculation, like I said, all the data has to be aggregated. All the measures have to be aggregated, right? So we need to specify our aggregation function first before we can evaluate the sum over, basically, which is a table function in the post-aggregation stage. So let me save that. So now we have three different overall sales. And again, let's put the segment and this overall sales on the visual. And to better illustrate that, let me change it to a table. So now you can see that we have overall sales, which covers from see, just cost. Let me also add sales to it so that we can better illustrate the result. And let me move sales to the top left of the table and enable total. Okay, so now you can see that we have sales, we have total sales across all the segments, right? And we have the overall sales using different calculation, and they don't get the same result. Why is that? Because in the first calculation, in the first columns, we have sales, which we by default use sum of the aggregation function, which is fine. The second one, overall sales, which is post aggregation and post filter calculate table function, and it has, remember, it has the aggregation function inside it, which is sum. That is also fine. And the last two, we are getting some big numbers. That doesn't look right? So the reason we have that is because when we using overall sales as pre-aggregation or pre-filter, we are calculating that pre-aggregation overall. So like I showed you here, either pre-filter or pre-aggregation, they are calculated before the aggregation stage. So they are basically returning the same column that's at the data set level. Each column can be the same number in our case because we are partitioned by nothing. But if we do another sum over it, we are basically calculating a lot of duplicate data into the result, right? So to fix that, we will need to switch the aggregation function from sum to things like minimal. So let me change that. And now you can see that our overall sales becomes reasonable, right? Same numbers across different columns, different fields. So now let's add filters to it so that we can compare like the result from of different calculation stage. So the first thing let me do is let me add a filter to this visualization. I can add say I can add something like industry, and edit that, and just unselect maybe a few columns here, a few elements in the list. So with that, you can see we get different result in our table, right? For pre-filter, the overall sales remain the same, 2.29 millions, which is like total sales of from data set. But for other columns here are impacted by this filter. We have less sales showing because we are excluding some industry from it. Then let's try one more thing. So remember in this calculation, evaluation order, we also have a top end filter, right? Which is after the pre-ag, the level LAA calculation. So let me add another filter. Let's say just do segment. And edit and change the filter type to top and bottom filter. Since we have only 3, let's just do top 2. And by sales. And default will be sum as our aggregation function in the top evaluation. So click on apply and OK. So with that, you can see things has changed a little bit more, right? So the pre-filter remains to be 2.29 million, and the pre-aggregate filter remains to be 2.04 million. And our post-aggregation filter column and the sales column now has become 1.678 millions, right? Because we also exclude some of the segment that's not the top segment in our data set. Yeah, so with that, I think we have covered exercise all the way until 6, 7, 8, and 9. Yeah. So I pause here to allow some time for you to follow and build your own visualization and calculations. And I will look at the question. Yeah, that's a good question. So is prefilter in this case before filtering on just analysis, or is it still comes after the in dataset level filtering? Yes. So if we have any dataset level filtering, that will be applied before the analysis any calculation in analysis, and also I think we had another similar question. The security filter or row level security filter will also be applied before even we have the pre-filtering selected. Yeah. Another question is, if we added the sum function in the sum over, like we did in post-aggregation, post-agg filter to the pre-agg and pre-filter. So the thing is, QuickSight will not allow you to do that. So let me show you. Like if we can go back to this. So if I do sum here and click save, yeah, QuickSight will find an error because when we have the pre-filter or pre-aggregation, pre-agg, QuickSight will look for like fields without aggregation as the first parameter. So if a field that has aggregation, QuickSight will not be able to apply pre-filter or pre-agg. Another question: when would you use pre-agg over all cells? Well, the reason we do that is for some of the use case. I mean, like when you have a pre-agg over all cells, you're basically creating a column that has the total sales data, right? Then you can do some like arithmetic calculation. You can calculate per each row, say per each row in the data set, what is percentage to total per each data set row at the data set level. And someone also mentioned the percentage of total calculation after the aggregation, right? Then that will become the calculation where we use like a regular table function, the post-agg filter function. Is there a limit on the number of rows that can be used for aggregation? We don't, but we do have limits on our dataset level. So we have up to like 250 million rows right now per dataset. So in a three-stage model, the pre-filter stage includes a reference to the filters after calculation. Why are any filters done during this stage? Let me see. Yeah, that's a good question. We can use the pre-filter calculate field in another calculate field, and in there we could have done some filtering, like a condition, like sum if, count if, etc. So those are the stage where those filters being applied. Yeah, so with that, I will move on to talk about the table function calculation. So again, this will be our last two exercises, exercise 10 and exercise 11. So so for table function, of course, we can, directly create it, right? So we can create, like we have seen, the overall sales use case, and you can, if you want to calculate the percentage total, you can just create another calculation here. So let me show you. You can create another calculation, which is sales, let's see, percentage of total, which is a sales divided by overall sales post-aggregation filter. Sorry, I need to do sum of sales. And do you want to show that as a percentage? Right, so now you can see the sales has been, we can see the percentage total of sales by different segment. But QuickSight also offers another way to allow you to quickly calculate, apply some table calculation. So let me show you that. So let me first create another visualization. And add the fields to it. So we need to have region and sub-region to it. Let me change that to a pivot table. Change the visual type to a pivot table. And then on the columns, we would like to have a segment. So let me just drag and drop it to the columns, column wheel. And we add the sales to it. So let me add sales to it. And we can add it twice. So let's just add it twice. Make sure when you drop it, it shows add instead of replace. If it's replace, it will replace existing one. If it's add, you'll be adding a second one. And now let's go to the settings, like the pencil icon of the visual, and change the second value's name to like percentage of total. So this is a calculation we want to show in our example. And now let's make it slightly bigger so that we can see. And we can add table calculations to it by just click on, we should click the table and then click on the second value in the value wheel, and then choose add table calculation. So let me choose percentage of total here. And you can see that the second value in our pivot table has become the percentage of total. And we can go ahead and select the value from the drop-down menu in the second value again. And then there's a new menu which says calculate as. So we have like 8 options. That's a lot, right? So we have table cross, table down, table cross down, and table down cross, and then same thing for the group. So what it does is it's trying to give you an order of the percentage to total calculation, which is essentially a table function, right? So what it does for table cross, it will basically calculate the percentage total across the table, like horizontally. And there is a table down, which means we will calculate the vertically apply this function like this. And across down will be first across, then goes down, and down cross will be first down and then go across. So now we are showing like the table cross, and what it will do is we are basically trying to calculate the percentage of total per rows in this table. So let me show you like the show total for columns, right? And you will be able to see that for each row we are basically getting if we sum up all the different segment cells, we'll get 100%. So let me hide that, and let me change the calculate as to table down. So in this way, if we show the total for columns again, you will not get some meaningful result, right? But if you hide that and show the rows for total, you're basically getting the total value, the total percentage across the down in this table. And let me hide that total again, and I want to show you one more, which is calculate as table across down. So in this way, we'll be calculating for the total percentage. We will first calculate the across the rows, and then down to the columns. So let me show the totals for rows, and also show the totals for columns, right? So that you'll see that for the grand total we get 100%, and for each row we are getting basically, so we are getting totals for this particular region, and for each column we'll be getting totals for this particular segment. Yeah, so in our case, since we're just doing sum, again, it's sum is commutative, right? So if we are switching from table cross down to table down cross, we're basically getting the same result. Yeah, so with that, and let me also explain a little bit on the group across. So the group across is trying to do the calculation within the group boundary. So let me try to show that to you. We can do a group across. So you'll be saying, in our case, you'll be saying the basically the region level total. Since it's cross, this is not a group best example. Let me try to, because we only have one level of group in our columns. So let me show you a different one. Let me show you a group down in this case, and hide the totals for column, which we don't need that. So now you can see that we are doing a group down, so which means we are looking at totals vertically, right? And I can show you the subtotal for rows, and you'll see that we are basically calculating for each region, and what is the percentage of total for each for cells in each subregion. Yeah, so that's how the group level of this calculate as comparing with the table calculate as. Okay, yeah, with that I think we have covered exercise 10 and 11. I will leave some time for you to actually follow the exercise and also ask questions. Yeah, someone asked if my version is different. If you don't see a pencil icon, you may be able to see a icon that's more like gears. That should be the same. So basically, when you mouse over it, it should show like format visuals, and you can click on that, and you see the menu options on the left-hand side. All right, so there's a question asking for how do you calculate the percentage total based on the total, not the total filtered? Yeah, so I can show you that here. So to achieve that, we want to calculate. I mean, we still want to calculate the data at a certain level, right? So in our case, a segment. So to do that, we need to modify this calculation. So sales percentage of total. So on the left-hand side, we still want to use our sum of sales because we want to know the sales at the particular level, right? And on the right-hand side, we can do is sum max of the overall sales pre-filter, or mean or median, same. So basically, this is a like column that has like same value for each row, right? So you can save that, and you will get the sales percentage of total over the overall sales, not the sales that's been filtered. And let's hide total here because now total doesn't make any sense. Let me see the screen. Is there a way to have a column showing the top dimension by a metric for another dimension? Example, top sub-region by sales in each region. Yeah, we can use like a rank function. So you can do a basically rank, and you can break down by region, right? And then you can filter on that using like the top 5 or top 10 as you choose, so you get the top sub-region per each region. In our top-end filter, let me see if we can have the in our top filter we don't support calculating the having like a partition by here. We do have tiebreaker, but we don't have a partition by. What you could also do is let's see, no, that won't work. Yeah, so I think the best way is to use a rank function in this case. So for the list of new features, we don't share our new features unless you have like NDA with us. So you can talk with our, if you're interested, you can talk with our service team, our product team, or sales team, sign the NDA, and you will be able to have access to the new features. There's one question that I'm still not very, it's not very clear. So when do I get to see the calculation setting on the pivot? Do you mean the table calculations? No, they're not on the pivot. They are in the field wheels. So like you can select the you can first select the visual and then expand the field wheels and then go to the value wheel and then click on the drop down button for the columns that you like to apply the table function. And here you can add the table function calculation, and then you can specify the way the table function is applied. So, all right, so let me recap a little bit. So in this module, we have covered like different types of calculations in QuickSight. And again, we remember we have in QuickSight we have a evaluation order that QuickSight follows to finish the calculation, right? So you have a simple function, and you may have so calculation-wise, you may have a simple calculation like aggregation, and then table function, right? So remember, simple function is done first. The table calculation, we may have 3 different places to do it: pre-filter, pre-aggregation, and then the post-aggregation filter aggregation table calculation. Yeah, the name is a little bit long. And then for filtering, again, we may have different places we can apply. Like in general, we have an analysis filter, and we have the top and bottom filters, and we have the post-aggregation filters. Yeah, a little bit more on that is when we have the table calculation in the like different stage, we can also apply filter on those calculations as well. That's one place where we have to apply a filter, especially like if we have a like pre-aggregation table function calculation here. Once the calculation is done and you have a filter on top of that, that filter calculation actually comes after the pre-aggregation calculation. And yeah, and also the last one, but last list, is the total and subtotal calculations always come at the last. Yeah, with that, we have covered this module. Now let's move on to the machine learning module, which is the last module of this workshop. So let me copy that and share the link in the chat. So in QuickSight, we have 3 different ways to leverage machine learning right now. The first 2 is within the analysis, and the last one is we call it QuickSight Q, which is a natural language query. It's like a search box. So in this module, we will cover the first 2, where we have the anomaly detection and the forecasting. So in either of these 2, we are basically this type of calculation in QuickSight as well, and QuickSight kind of encapsulated the calculation logic into the QuickSight console, so that you don't really have to specify a lot of details for your calculation. So you just need to have a few mouse click, and you'll be able to see to leverage machine learning and add that into your analysis you build. Yeah, QuickSight Q is a search box, a natural language search box, which allows you to basically type in a question, allows the users to type in a question and get answers from the data set. We do have like Q workshops in our like coming up learning series. So yeah, if you are interested, definitely sign up for that. Yeah, so now let's move on to talk about the machine forecasting and anomaly detection. So yeah, so the first thing we can do is let's I mean, it's optional. If you want to, you can do duplicate analysis, or if not, you can reuse the ones you have right now. So like in my case, I have pre-built a few visualizations, like the sales and the period over period and the forecast one from the insights. So now let's take a deeper look into this exercise, this like visualizations. Actually, let me remove this too because those are duplicate. So let's first talk about forecasting. There are actually two places we can add forecasting in QuickSight. So the first one, I think in the previous session we have talked about that, like in a line chart, we can click on the three-dot menu and then click add forecast. And you can specify how many period you want to predict forward, how many period you want to predict backwards, right? And also your confidence interval that you like to have. And the last one is the seasonality. So like if you have a data that's like repeating, like say in our case, where if we have a data that's repeating on 12 months, right? So I would be choosing like 12 as our seasonality, and click OK. And you can set that with seasonality prediction is slightly different. You can catch the pattern that we have stronger sales in the holiday season, right? Goes up and sales goes up again, up and up and up, right? There's always a spike near the end of the season of the year. Yeah, so that's the first place we can add forecasting in QuickSight. Then another place we can add is our insight. So insight is very special but very helpful, like GUI element in QuickSight. We can have the different kind of computations being added to an insight. So in this example, we have a period over period like insights from the like machine learning based machine recommended insight, right? So like when you click on your line chart on the left, then click on insights, you get to see the suggested insights from this chart that you are looking at. But let's take a closer look of the insights. So within each insight, you can click on the three-dot menu here, and then you can click on custom narrative. Yeah, before we actually talk about the forecasting insight, let's take a look at insight first. So within each insight, you can see we have on the left-hand side we have narratives, right? So narrative is basically a kind of script language, and that allows you to kind of decide what you want to show in your insight. So if you take a quick glance, you can see that we have in this period over period like insight, we have the two if block, right? So the first block we have if the period over period dot has data equals to false, then we show there's no data available. Then another block is if this kind of variable is true, right? Then we show some data. And on the right-hand side, we have our computations, parameters, and functions. So computations are basically like I said, a computation unit that you can add to an insight. So like the one we added, like automatically is a period over period in this case, and also it will automatically generate these narratives for you. And you can click on add computation if you like. Then you can add actually more computations for it. So for example, you can add like among these computations, there are two of them are machine learning based. One is forecast and another is anomaly detection. Right. The others are also very interesting. Like they can be used in different use cases. Like you can capture the button ranked, button movers, or growth rate, etc. So let me just show you one, like total aggregation. And you can click next. Then you will be asked to specify which field you want to use. So here we have sales sum, and I can click add. So now you can, in the computation, now you can see that I'm going to have two computations in the inside, right? And you can customize it. Say you can customize your narrative, leveraging the output of the computation. So this columns, like fields, underneath each computation are the output of each computation. So like I say, for example, I can basically click the hash data from the peer-over-peer computation, and it will be part of the narrative, right? So you will see which is true here, which means we do have data. Another example is I can show you, say, total aggregation. So I can quickly click on formatted value. Then it will be added to the narrative. And in the preview, you can see that the total, I think it's total sales, will be this number, right? So that's the basic of the computations. And let me delete this. We don't need it for now. And inside here, we can also calculate using parameters in the narrative, as well as functions. So we have a list of functions that's been supported. It's basically all the simple or arithmetic functions that QuickSight supports. We can use those functions in the narratives as well. So let me come back to the exercise for now. So now in the exercise 2, we like to customize our narrative, right? So we have now entered the inside editing page, and our task is to highlight the decrease to red and highlight the increase to green. So let me select the increased by. This is just a text, right? And then let me select the text color and change that to green. And for decrease by, and let me select the text and choose this color and set it to red. You can see in the preview to refresh, and you see the sales has been decreased from this is second to last month to the last month in our data set. And also let's our task 4 is to click on the two variables and mark them bold. So let me just click on this and mark it as bold. Click on this and mark it as bold. And you can see that the preview has also been refreshed. So now you get a basic idea, right? So inside we have computations, and we can also kind of customize the narrative based on the colors, the font, and also you can have some logic here. You can insert some expression, or you can also even do some inline logic and block-based logic. So which we will look into later. And I also want to mention that actually inside is also a good place to add some color or flavor to your dashboard. So for example, you can add a link here. You can say, let's say, QuickSight.aws.amazon.com, and you can use a display link as link to QuickSight homepage, and save that. In your preview, you get have the link. So now let me save this insight. And make it slightly bigger, right? So you'll see that the formatting to the text has been applied. And if you click on the link to the QuickSight homepage, it will basically open a new tab. And okay, I put a link to the QuickSight, to QuickSight QuickSight console actually. So it will redirect me to the QuickSight console. Yeah. So now let's look into the kind of doing more customization on the forecast. So I have created this one from the line chart that I had. What you could, if you don't have it, you can also go here, click Add an Insight, and then click on Forecast, and select, and then just put in, I think the sales, and time dimension into the field wheel, which is, I think we have an order date, yeah. Then specify date to months. Yeah, so here what QuickSight will do is first, QuickSight will aggregate data, the dataset, the input, aggregate the data in the dataset to month level, right? To order date at month level, and calculate the sum of sales per month, and then kind of calculate the forecast of the monthly sales to the period specified in the computation. So that's how you reach here. And let me come back to this one. And what I will do is I will add another forecast computation here inside the ones we already had. So let me click on the three-dot button menu, and again click on custom narrative. And so for the existing ones, let's go to the computation. Click on, there's a pencil icon, and you can see the menu options. That's pretty much the same as we have in the line chart, right? So let's change this period to from 14 to 6, and sorry, let's change this to 12. That's required. That's recording your task, and save it. So for this line, we are trying to making a prediction for the next for 12 months later. So now let's add another computation, and again let's select the forecast, and then the name is called forecast insight number 2, right? And then you can, again, you will need to specify the input field. So we don't have many options right now. We just need to specify the order date and the sales. And the forecast period, we have to change that to 6, and click Add. So now in the computation list, we have 2 insights right now. And now let's copy and paste the whole narratives we have right now. So you can just click on like the total area and just using Control A to select everything, then Control C, and press Enter to paste that here. And for the first line, what we have is the 12 months prediction, right? We change that to 12. So let me just type in, replace the total to be 12-months forecast. Then for the second line, we would like to have is a 6 months forecast. So let's do a 6 months forecast. And then for the variables in this forecast, now it still refers to the forecast insight, right? Which is the original insight or original computation we have here, forecast insight. So let's click on each of them and change that into number 2, which refers to the second computation in our computation list. So in this way, you can see that we have 12 months forecast sales is forecast to be number for the December of next year, right? Then 6 months forecast will be the different number for the June next year. So that's how we can put like 2 different forecasts into one insight. And now you can save it, and you'll be able to see 2 different forecasts in your insight. Yeah, with that, I will pause, and again, for you to try to build the access yourself and ask a question. So one of the question is in insights, is there a way to get a period year over year? So for example, can I compare the months of September 2021 to the September of 2020? Yeah, we can do that by adding a filter to the period over period comparison. Actually, let me show this here. So for customized insights, now we are showing the total sales for December is decreased, right? From blah, 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 and what's the percentage of decrease? Let me first add a little bit more information here. So I will say it's decreased and comparing with a period. And that is, so in the list of the output of the period computation, you can see there is a previous time value here. So let me add that here. And we don't like it to be bold. So you can see that, okay, so we are now in our period over period computation, we are actually comparing December of 2021 with November of 2020, right? So let me save this for now. And in case you want to do a year-over-year comparison, what you need to do is basically, it's very straightforward. You just need to filter out some of the months in your data. So let me add the order date filter here for this particular visual. Particular insight, and then edit. So you'll be wanting, when you want to do a year-over-year comparison, what it means, so QuickSight is you can filter out the any months that's in between the 2 months that you don't like. So in this case, let's try to do a comparison between December of 2021 and with December of 2020, right? So let's change this to no, let's not use parameter. Relative date filter, and doing let's see, months. Let's just do this month. Then there's going to be no data available because we only get data for this month. So now let's add another condition on the order date. And again, let's just do December 1st to the December 31st last year, including the start end day. Apply that. Okay, so it seems we don't have data for last year in our data set. So let me try to a different date and try to do it use like January. See if we have data for that. We probably don't still have data. Actually, let's check how many months we have. Wait. We should have data for all these months. Let me change this to a relative dates. Okay, do this one. Maybe I missed something. I'm sorry. But you get an idea, right? So basically, we're trying to filter out some data, then we can do a pure comparison from the data points we have. So QuickSight basically will always calculate the comparison of the last 2 months, 2 period in your calculation. Not sure what I missed here. All right. Is it possible to create a table of inside data? I think it's not available in the insights, but if you are using the line chart, you will be able to export that to CSV with a prediction. Yeah. Okay. So with that, let me move on to the last part. We have like 20 plus minutes. Let's skip the exercise 4 and move on to the anomaly detection. So again, anomaly detection is nothing but another insight in QuickSight. So let me actually remove this one and add an insight. And then in the computation, we'll just select anomaly detection. And for the input of the insight, we want to choose the order date as a time series, a time dimension, and then sales as our value, and the customer as our category. Okay. And now let's aggregate data to month level again. So we're basically looking at the monthly sales per customer. And then you can click on Get Started, and you'll see another configuration page for more details. So let me walk through all the options here. So from left, here we do have an explanation on how the anomaly detection will cost. There is going to be additional cost for that. Then here are the computation options. So we have, you can specify like fields to be analyzed. So we have in our case, we have the order date, sales by sum, and then customer. So it will ask you what kind of combination to be analyzed. So we have different options. We have the hierarchical, exact, and all. Hierarchical will basically calculate the lowest level of dimension in the field, and exact will be basically calculate all the fields we have in the dimension, including the time series ones, time dimension, and the category dimension. And what we'll do is we'll try to calculate kind of all the combinations of the dimensions we have in the field. So what it will do is if we specify all, it will evaluate the say monthly sales. That would be one time series for the anomaly detection algorithm to calculate, to detect anomaly. Then you will have the customer sales per customer, and that's the second time series, right? And then you also have the sales by month by customer. That'll be the third time series. And if you have more of the category dimensions, all will basically pick all the combinations between the ones in the category dimension, in category well. So be very careful to use that, because if you specify all and you add a lot of like dimensions into the category well, it can be multiplication of the cardinality in each dimension. So you'll be calculating on a lot of time series. It will cost some time and money. So in this case, just the hierarchical, which is the lowest level. In our case, we just have one time series to analyze. And display options. So by default, you will show 3 anomaly, and you can specify severity level. You can specify direction is higher than expected or lower than expected, or you can add conditions on the delta. And then sort options, you can specify how do you want to sort it based on different criteria, how to sort your anomaly. And you can schedule anomaly to run. You can schedule on hourly basis, daily basis, so on and so forth. And the last part is you can add your contributor analysis to it. So in our case, in our exercise, we can add like country and contact name and product. So you can select basically up to 4 fields for your contribution analysis. So on the right hand side, you get a preview, right? And you can see that for particular anomaly that's been detected, like this one, you get to see that what actually contributes to it. So the top contributor in this case would be they can sort by contribution percentage. And you can see it's the top contribution is country Filipino sales, which is up from 0 to like 10,000, right? Which contribute to like 30% of the total increase for this data point. Yeah, then there could be different countries. There could be contribution by different different contact, and then the last one is contribution from different product. Yeah. Then with that, you can save it, and then you can kick off your anomaly detection. You can kick it wrong. So now, this anomaly detection will be running kind of in the backend and in the background, and it may take some time to finish. So if you schedule your anomaly to run, then it will basically run unscheduled, so that when you log in, the user will be able to see a fresh result. Yeah, and I also want to flag something on that is for anomaly detection, it's not going to be affected by any of the filters. So QuickSight will basically ignore any filter applied to anomaly detection. Reason is straightforward, right? Because we do need to analyze the whole data set, and the anomaly runs as a single, is like a single source of truth for you to analyze anomaly. So for different, if you apply filter or if you have different row levels, even you have a row level security filter, it will be ignored in your anomaly detection. Now let's while we are waiting, I will leave some time for you to actually build your own anomaly detection. And also, if you have a question, feel free to ask. And yeah, then after that, we'll look into the contribution analysis in the anomaly detection. All right, so it seems my anomaly detection has come back. So let's talk about contribution analysis. So actually, in QuickSight we support contribution analysis in two different places. So we support that in some of visualizations like line chart, and we also of course we support that in anomaly detection. So let's first show you that in a line chart. So you can click on any of the data point on the line chart, and then you can have a menu, and you can select the analyze contributions to sales.
Ian, I hate to interrupt you, but it seems like when you came off mute just now, your microphone was a little bit scratchy. I don't know if there's something maybe touching your mic, or maybe you could just repeat what you just stated and try again.
Okay, let me try to switch to a different audio source.
I think that might help. Yeah, we'd love to get through this last couple of examples clearly. Thanks everyone for your patience. We'll be right back.
Yeah, is it better?
That is better. Thank you.
Okay, you can still see my screen.
We sure can. Yep.
Okay, cool. All right, so let's talk about contribution analysis. So let me come back a little bit. So we do have two places in QuickSight supports contribution analysis. So the first one is in some of the visuals, and you can click on the data points, and you get to see the menu that allows you to analyze contributions to the data points. And another one is, of course, the anomaly detection, which we'll show later. So now let's look at our line chart, and you can click on any of the data points on the line chart and select analyze contribution to sales. So it will bring you to a different page where you can select the time range, right? And also see the data, so increase the data, and also add contributors. So
in this case, let's add country, customer, and product. Yeah, and then down below you will be able to see that the breakdown of the contributions by these dimensions. So by country, by customer, and by product. And the cool thing is we actually also enabled like the feature as like a same sheet action. So you can click on any of the bars here, like for example, an opinion, and it will filter the rest of the uh, visuals on this page, so that you can see that for uh, this country, what is sales breakdown uh, by customer and by should be no result to show, but it should be by the product. Mm, it seems it's a bit slow here. I think let me move on. You can see that here, right? And now let's look at the contribution analysis in anomaly detection. So after the anomaly come back, you can see there's an explore anomaly option here. You can click on that. Again, it shows you a different page that allows you to explore the anomaly. You can see the anomaly is being detected, and you can use something like a control panel to filter on the anomaly being detected. And on the left-hand side, you can see that uh, the contribution is the contributors are preset, and of course you can use configuration to change that, and you can apply, and you see that by country what contributes to the anomaly. Again, by the contact name of who contributes most to the anomaly, and also by product. And you can actually select a different anomaly, right? So now we have two anomalies. We have one anomaly for Amnon and another one for Cisco system, for the customer. And for the different anomaly, you get a different contribution list. All right. Yeah, with that, I think we have covered all the exercise for today. Is there any like last minute question?
I think that we are good on the questions. So I guess on behalf of all of the attendees, I would love to say thank you so much for sharing your expertise and diving deep on all of these questions. I have just put into the chat window on behalf of our team a link that we'd appreciate anyone who attended to just share your feedback on what you've been able to see and do today. We'd love to make every session that we do like this a little bit better each time. And also to let you know, again, we've been recording the session and we'll be posting the completed video and materials onto our QuickSight YouTube channel by the end of the week. So with that, I again will just thank everyone for your time today, and we'll wrap things up.